If I'm going somewhere I've never been before, perhaps, I'm going to a restaurant or somewhere that I don't really know where it is, I always like to find out in advance where I'm going. Be prepared. Should have been in the Scouts, shouldn't I? So, I'll Google the place, look at the best route to take, and if it's somewhere local, I might even do a dummy run to make sure I know exactly where I'm going. However, 3,500 years ago, there was no Google, no sat-navs. So you had to think of something else if you wanted to find out about the place you were going to. That was the situation that the people of Israel faced. You'll remember the story, how under Moses they'd been set free from slavery in Egypt. They'd spent 40 years going through the wilderness, going towards the promised land, the place that God had said he would give them to live in. Moses had died, so now it was down to Joshua to lead the people. And there they were, almost in the promised land, but the other side of the River Jordan, opposite the town of Jericho. But what was Jericho like? Was it well fortified? Was he going to need a huge army or just, a few clever soldiers? Joshua wanted to know. And not having the benefit of Google, he did the most sensible thing. He sent someone else to have a look. So 2 spies were sent out. They crossed the river, went into the town. There were people going in and out, trading, whatever. How were they going to find out what the people were thinking, what the local situation was, what sort of reception they might get? No spotted burnt wood. I don't know how people lived without all these things. But anyway, these 2 spies thought they would mingle with the locals and find out what it was all about. But where might unknown, strange men get away with having no questions asked? They went to the house of a prostitute, Rahab, and this is our woman of the Bible for today. That's all that we're told. Rahab was a prostitute. We don't know her background, why she was earning her living that way. But what we do discover is that she is a spiritual woman who recognizes what God's doing, and she joins in. Something, an inner conviction, tells her that these foreigners are to be welcomed and looked after as servants of God. So, knowing that their presence might have raised suspicions, she took them up on the flat roof of her house, where she was drying flax that we make linen from, and she hid them under the bundles of flax. This is the story from Joshua chapter 2, and it's quite a long reading today. Someone told the king of Jericho, "Some Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land." So the king of Jericho sent orders to Rahab, "Bring out the men who have come into your house, for they have come here to spy out the whole land." Rahab had hidden the 2 men, but she replied, "Oh, yes, they were here earlier, but I didn't know where they were from. They left the town at dusk, as the gates were about to close. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with them." Actually, She had taken them up to the roof and hidden them beneath bundles of flax. She went up on the roof to talk with them. "I know the Lord has given you this land," she told them. "We are all afraid of you, for we have heard how the Lord made a dry path for you through the Red Sea when you left Egypt. No wonder our hearts have melted in fear, for the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and the earth below. Now, swear to me by the Lord that you will be kind to me and my family, since I have helped you. Give me some guarantee that when Jericho is conquered, you will let me live along with my father and my mother, my brothers and sisters, and all their families." Then, since Rahab's house was built into the town wall, she let them down by a rope through the window. Before they left her, the men told her, "Follow these instructions. When we come into the land, you must leave this scarlet rope hanging from the window through which you let us down, and all your family members must be here inside the house. If anyone lays a hand on people inside this house, we will accept responsibility for their death." And she sent them on their way. A thought occurred to me. We know that her house was built like into the city wall, so there was a way, rather than going in the front door, that you could go out the back window. And maybe she had used that before for people who didn't want to be seen at the house of a prostitute. Something from her past experience God was going to use for his purposes. You'll know the next bit of the story, how they went back and told Joshua, these two spies. The people of Israel crossed the river, again on dry land, because God stopped the flow of the river. They marched with the Ark of the Covenant around the city of Jericho for 7 days. And on the 7th day, they did it 7 times, and they blew the trumpets, and the walls fell down. They didn't actually need to break down the walls. And everybody inside the city was destroyed. Except, as we know, for the family of Rahab the prostitute. They were brought out to safety. Everyone else was destroyed, but for her and her family, there was hope for a new life, a happy ending for Rahab. But that wasn't the end of her story. We read in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 1, that she formed a relationship with one of the Israelites, Salmon. They had a son called Boaz, who married Ruth. They had a child called Obed, whose son was Jesse, who was the father of David, king of Israel. Rahab was the great-great-grandmother of a king. And you might think, well, why did this Canaanite woman, this foreigner, not one of God's special people, someone who, as a prostitute, lived right on the margins of society, why did she have such an important part to play in the life of God's people? Why did God use her to bring about his purposes? And I guess the answer is simply because she had faith. She had heard about and understood God's power in the past. And she put her trust in him for her future. She risked her life by lying to the king of Jericho in order to protect God's people, the spies, because she saw by faith what was going to happen, that God would be sovereign. Rahab's past, that wasn't an issue for God. I'm reminded that in the book of Samuel, when Samuel was sent to anoint the future King David, he was told, people look at the outward appearance. God looks at the heart. And Rahab's heart was to see what God was doing and to act accordingly. That's why she's included in the list in the book of Hebrews of the great people of faith. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 31. It was by faith that Rahab the prostitute was not destroyed with the people in her city who refused to obey God, for she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. She saw what God was doing. She trusted God to save her. And she acted on that trust. She might have sat there and thought, I'm going to be all right because I helped. But she actually had to hang that scarlet rope out of her window. If she hadn't acted on it, she wouldn't have been saved. And in a sense, faith isn't faith until we act on it. Now, my circumstances are quite different to Rahab's. My past, you'll be glad to know, has been nothing like hers. But I do have something in common with her, because I know that whatever our background, whatever our circumstances, God can take that and make something special out of it. God can and does use the most unlikely people as part of his plan, even people like me and you. Amen.